smile on your lips. You feel a little bit tired.
Welcome once again, my friends, to the party time that never ends. It's the Charlotte Soccer Show, and it never ends. Even when you don't see an episode for a couple days, there's always another one coming down the line. So welcome to everyone. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for being tremendous friends of our show and celebrating soccer, Charlotte, and everything in between. I am Danny Brams. I'm flying solo, but I do have a little someone riding shotgun with me today, but no Johnny Hayes today. I think he's out making birdies and hopefully a few eagles out there, one of America's finest. But I'm here to talk about Charlotte against Portland. We are hosting Portland. I believe it's our first time we've ever played them in the regular season. That's pretty cool. Something new coming to the Fortress. I want to quickly, before we get into that game, I just want to bring up something that came up this morning. MLS has just released a new transparency thing, a full roster transparency list that sort of shows where everybody is, and it's the easiest way to like one-stop shop, figure out all the contract news for every MLS club. Very cool. You can look at the MLS PR handle if you need to find this, but there is one thing that was worth mentioning real quick here is if you look, it says Brecht de Agra is a designated player, and I've talked to some people at the club about that just to get some clarity. What that means is that since we have the open DP slot, Brecht has got it because it saves the club a little money. But we've been talking a lot about, our new DP number 10 that we're going to be looking for this summer, and that DP slot will be available. The plan would be to just quickly buy Brecht's contract down a little bit, get him to a TAM level instead of a DP. But he is a DP for now, something that maybe not a lot of people knew, maybe something that I didn't even know until I saw this transparency report. But hey, roster machinations are not really our specialty here. We're a show about vibes and fun and having a good time. And with that in mind, I can't wait to introduce our guest today, another awesome broadcaster from the Apple MLS Season Pass stable of broadcasters. We got to go into the video vault, and we are big on like classic crazy goals. You've seen, Sasha Kleshton's goal and Danny Higginbottom's goal at Stoke and all that shit. But sometimes you got to show a great save as well.
The box, they tried to chip. Gallardo got back to cover just in time. Boy, what a job by the Armada defense, including Miguel Gallardo on that one.
At number 1, North American Soccer League, Miguel Gallardo of the Jacksonville Armada FC. What a save! Punching the ball out over his head while slamming into the back of the goal. No regard for his own safety.
What a great shot there of the save by Gallardo.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miguel Gallardo to the show. Miguel, how are you doing? What a save.
My back still hurts. The commentator was spot on when he said no regard for his own safety. I was young and I was stupid, but obviously a good memory. I remember getting home that day and everybody was like, dude, you're on ESPN, Sports Center as a top play. And I'm like, why? And so I went and I watched it and I just thought it was really, really funny. I don't know what the hell I was doing that far up the pitch.
Yeah, why are you off your line so far, Miguel? What's going on?
I tell you why, because the coach for that team wanted me to play really, really connected to my defense. And we were a team that was very unorthodox. We played very aggressive. I was the player most times that had the most touches on the ball.
Interesting.
Literally,
keeper.
It was a fun team to watch and it was a fun team to play for. But every now and then I did stupid things like this that, hopefully that, thankfully that one didn't go in the goal, but memories. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. And now I got to bust out the Bengay and the icy hot again.
Yeah, no doubt. Jumping backwards, just tipping it with your fingertips. Absolutely wonderful. We've got a lot of parents of young goalkeepers in our audience, so hopefully they got a chance to see that and they can see just the highest form of what goalkeeping was right there for sure. That was, of course, with Jacksonville Armada. I believe that was 2015, July of 2015. You went from the Armada to Orlando City. You helped launch, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, signing in Orlando City history. Saw them from the minor leagues and came with them up to MLS when they sort of, were elevated. had your career there, played with Orlando. Now you're at MLS 360, you're an analyst on the Spanish version of MLS 360 with our friend of the show, Gio Savarese. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. And you're just doing big things, man. What's it like going from player to broadcaster? We always love to get that perspective.
Yes, man. Honestly, it's been a real blessing. I'm really, really lucky to get to work with incredible people. Gio Savarese, obviously one of them. His experience. He's just such a gentleman. It's funny because they asked me to. Sometimes when I disagree with him, at times I almost feel bad. He's such a gentleman. I don't want to go saying, even though he probably makes a lot more sense than I think I will.
Right.
He's just such a good human being. Obviously, working next to Diego Valeri for a few times. League MVP. What a guy he is as well. Tony Kirky. I mean, his experience is, it's better than many people in the business, and just so many people that I've been able to work with. Even on the English side, I've done some show in English. I've called some games in English as well. It's just been a really fun ride. I'm really grateful. I've learned a ton, traveled a ton, got to see, most of the stadiums in Major League Soccer, including Bank of America in Charlotte. What a fun atmosphere! The way they party, that Peppa song right before the game starts. Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's a little bar restaurant outside of the stadium where a lot of the fans go. That my fellow broadcasters as well. It was cool to get to talk to the fans as well. How excited they were about it. I remember when I called the game, it was right before they were going to play Unfortunately, play that game, but I remember talking to some of the people in ticket sales, some of the people in marketing, saying that they were going to give everybody shirts so that they didn't wear the Inter Miami shirt. But it's just been a lot of fun, learning a ton, and I'm really excited about what's to come. I think this is just the beginning of Apple TV as working to make the league better. So I think there's more exciting things to come in the near future.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's funny. I think the time when Inter Miami comes to town this year, I believe it's during an international window, so I think Messi will be gone. So that was our brush with greatness, unfortunately. But yeah, we do have a lot of fun here. It's a party atmosphere and things are great. But yeah, it is funny when you think about like doing analysis and like, do I even trust my own analysis if this guy disagrees with me? That Johnny and I find ourselves in that situation a lot of times because I'm like, he's a very smart guy. But I want to talk a little bit about Charlotte FC. You got your impressions of them there. What do you think of this year's team as you watch them? We're facing, you talk about Diego Valeri, one of my all-time favorite midfielders in the league. You talk about Gio. There's the MLS 360 Spanish has a big Portland Timbers influence. Are you guys going to be able to like comment on this game without any bias or anything like that? What's the deal?
Oh, listen, I actually one of the most critical people in our cast when we've talked about Portland Timbers has been, in fact, Gio Savarese. And, I've been very critical of them, to be honest, because this is a team that for me has the talent to be a top team, yet they just cannot figure out their defensive issues. It is unbelievable to me that I think pound for pound, if I'm choosing 4 or 5 of the best strikers and attackers in the league, Portland Timbers has 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. With Morta, with Evander, with Moreno, with Cabecita, the guy that they just got from Liga MX, and Westwood, and Chara in the middle of the field. This is a sick and stacked team. Yet they're one of the teams that is the most vulnerable defensively, and I just can't figure out why. Is it personnel? Is it tactics? Is it people in the midfield that, for me, the combination has to be right? Is it Paredes? Is it Chara? Is it Paredes? Is it Westwood? Is it Paredes? Is it Westwood? Is it Evander? I don't think you can have those two guys together because they don't defend, right? So
yep. Really
interesting to see what Phil Neville has been rotating. I don't think that you can guess what the starting 11 is going to be, especially in the middle of the field. And there's some issue there. There's got to be some continuity, but I don't think he's been able to figure out the right formula to give the team balance because they have such a strong and potent attack.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned J-Rod. I'm a Liga MX fan too as well. So seeing J-Rod come up from Cruz Azul to Portland, I'm like right before they're playing us. I'm like, geez, yet another one. We have a little bit of an issue at Charlotte FC that started probably even in our first season. It was really, really bad last year, and it hasn't quite been fixed under the new manager, Dean Smith, as far as conceding late goals. We have a real tendency both in first halves and second halves to concede late. And I'm going to tee you up on that with some soundbite from spoke with Adilson Malanda, one of our center backs this week. Here's what he had to say about the issue of conceding late goals and how he feels about how important it is. He doesn't really give any clues of how we're going to fix it, but at least talks about the importance of it. And then maybe you can tell us how.
No, of course, we know that's one of our problem right now that we need to fix, because we cannot keep accepting taking goals like this at the end of the game, because that kills just every effort that we can make during the whole week and the game also. So no, it was tough to accept it, but it's a part also of the game. I think we could score before, we didn't, and it happened also. But yeah, of course, if you cannot win the game, we have to learn to don't lose it, because it takes now a lot of points away from us. So we'll do the best to avoid that again and make sure everything's right until the end. We know they are a good team offensively, and defensively there are also some difficulties. They concede a lot also, so we know we will get some chances. We'll have to take them, and then defensively make sure we're defending our goal really strongly, because we are home, and then we want to be back on our basics. So really, hopefully, clean sheet.
I mean, he says hopefully a clean sheet. You mentioned Evander, Moreno, Cabecito, and Mora, and everybody they got. Eric Williamson, U.S. men's national program before his bad injuries. Like, it's not looking great for a clean sheet. I just hope we don't concede late. What do you think of the situation?
Yeah, look, conceding late is a part of many issues, right? The big one for me is experience. And I just don't know how much experience Charlotte FC has in their back line. They have Kalina, who's obviously a very seasoned goalkeeper, but from the rest, I don't know that there's a lot of guys that have that know-how of how to maintain scores, that have been in teams that have won championships, and the championship caliber teams have that understanding of when it's time to be tactically in order, tactically sound. Concentration levels have to be really, really high. And obviously with Charlotte FC's defense, it's young, but I think there's some work to do there. I also think that there's a balance for me, because in the first, I would say 6-7 matches of the season, Charlotte FC statistically was one of the teams that gave the lower percentage goal scoring opportunities to the opponent, and which I thought was a very good start for Dean Smith, because the first thing for me as a manager when they have to come into a new team is, can you find order? Can you find defensive solidity? Can you be a team that's difficult to beat? And then you start to worry a little bit more about how you're going to create the attack. And I think over the last 3 or 4 matches for Charlotte FC, they've lost a little bit of that balance, because now they're trying to be a little bit more offensive. They didn't create many opportunities in the first few matches, but they were solid defensively. They were sound, and they were difficult to break down, but they didn't generate much. Copetti in and out of the lineup with injuries. I think, he's a player that needs to really turn it up. Now you got the new designated player in Armada coming from Celtic, all the pedigree there, multiple double-digit goal-scoring seasons with Celtic. I'm really interested to see what he can do. He seems like the real deal. Kevin Vargas has been very inconsistent over the last couple of years. He scored a banger versus NYCFC, but other than that, it's a guy that you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Diaghilev is a good player, but obviously I don't know how much continuity he has. Agyemang in and out of the lineup. He has some interesting things. There's a lot of players there for me that have a big ability. But you haven't replaced the biggest player from last year, which was Kaz Baderski, right? You haven't replaced him. Not man for man, not systematically. You haven't been able to figure out how to generate what he could generate, even when he was playing in the wrong position for his individual ability. So for me, in the attack, if you're not scoring goals, then you build pressure. Now you have to go into, games towards the last minutes, holding on for dear life, because you're only leading by 1 goal. And that takes stress defensively, because now you needles, the margins of error are very, very small. So I think they've done a really good job to start the season to limit opportunities for the opponent, not creating many opportunities. Now with the new players coming in, now you're generating a little bit more. Now you're being a little bit more goal dangerous, but you've lost a little bit of balance. And when you don't score goals, and when you're not as solid defensively, you put more stress on the defense. And with the maybe a little bit of lack of experience, a lot of potential, but lack of experience of the back line, I think you get the result that you've been getting the last few matches.
Yeah, it's spot on analysis where we are running Nathan Byrne out there as right back, who's got, very veteran. If he was a few years younger, he'd probably still be playing in Europe. But other than that, it's like Malanda, I think 24, Privet, I think 23, Yere Urinen, the left back, I think is 26, maybe 27. But then the subs, he might even be 28. But then the subs are all, under 25 years old. So there really is some experience issues. Privet, our starting center back, is out of position. He played defensive midfielder in college, and he's learned, he pretty much is a center back now. He's played a year and a half as a center back in MLS, but I'm sure they're in another team or in another system, he could probably find his way back into the midfield. So it's tough.
And I think he's a good player. I think he's got a bright future. Obviously, when he came in last season and started playing center back, because there was some real issues with the center backs for Charlotte FC, he was a real bright spot, and I think he's going to continue to do things just because he played defensive midfield in college. Listen, the reality is that if you played more often than not, if you played higher up the field in college, when you make it into MLS, you're going to play, maybe one line below that. If you were a winger, you're probably going to make a decent fullback. If you were a 10, you might be a really hard-working number 8 where you still use some of your attacking abilities, but you have to defend. And so I think that there is something there with Privet. And, when I talk about lack of experience, I don't always mean by age, because Burns is an experienced player. Obviously, the new left back is an experienced player at 26 years old. You're talking somebody in Alina. What I'm talking about is championship caliber experience. How many of these have played in teams that have won important things? And so that's what I mean by that type of experience. And of course, when you pair that with youth, then you have to find different ways to put your team in a more comfortable position. How can you do that? Score more goals, man. Score more goals. And then you relieve on the back line so they're not hanging on for dear life towards the end of the matches.
Yeah, and our nominal number 10, Brex De Agra, the guy that I mentioned off the top of the episode before you joined, who we just found out today actually is on a DP contract, for the time being, the secret DP. But he won a cup. He's a captain of a cup-winning side with Toulouse, right, in the French Cup, and like that is something. But then he's been one of our most inconsistent players. He shows flashes of pure brilliance, and then he has some of the bigger, most high-profile mistakes in the last 2 years for this club, or the last calendar year, you could say. So it's a little bit frustrating. Let's bring up this because you mentioned, we're going to have to work on the conceding late. We got to find this balance, like you said. Like we got to be able to still be strong defensively and create more chances. I was taking a look at some analytics here, and this is courtesy of a site called xvalue.ai. I think it's a new site, and just kind of shows what I see is that Charlotte has a lower XG than the rest of the league, and it has more crosses than the rest of the league. So it's like and fewer through balls. So, and much fewer dribbles, if you're looking at this. So you start to see like maybe we're relying too heavily on just kicking the ball out to the wing. I think a lot of us fans have a perception that we need to do more through the middle, even both defensively and offensively. We're letting the game be played too wide. And I think this chart shows that a little bit. But have you noticed that when you watch Charlotte? Do you see some lacking in the middle that I see?
Well, again, you don't have a steady creator, right? You play with 2 number 8s, with Westwood, other players field that I don't know that any of them are necessarily a 10 that can allow you more volume through the middle of the field. Right. And when the Agri plays, obviously he's a solid player. But you have a striker that demands crosses, and that's his bread and butter. He's not a false 9. He's not a guy that's going to drop in and create combination play. And then you also don't have wingers, although we're yet to see a lot from Armada. You don't necessarily have wingers that can take up those positions when they are vacant. You have a very good 1v1 player. Just don't know that he's a guy that can create volume through the middle. And again, you try to play to the strengths of your striker, which is Copetti. He's a fox in the box. He's a great, he's a guy that's very good in the air. He's a guy that occupies center backs. And, I don't know if it's a game model that you're trying to get the ball out wide and get crosses into the box. But what I will say is that if you are going to get crosses into the box, you need more people in the box. You need a more presence from the guys in the middle, from Westwood, crashing in the box, from the opposite side winger getting in the box. You can't just have one guy. And that's what I've seen oftentimes is when those crosses do come into the box, there aren't a lot of blue shirts ready to connect on those crosses. So, again, that's the most difficult thing to do is generate through the middle. You need real quality. You need good sequences. You need chemistry that I think this team obviously has 2 or 3 or 4 new players in the lineup consistently that they're, I would imagine that they're going to get there because I do think individually they have some real quality. Westwood, I'll be honest with you, Westwood's one of my favorite players in the league in his position. I think he's a really solid player.
Me too.
He's a box. He can do a lot of different things. But again, he needs some support there, and I'm sure Dean Smith's gonna, that's one of the things that he needs to figure out.
Yeah, we've even toyed with the idea on this show of Westwood should just be playing the 10. Like why don't we put our most technically gifted, experienced player in the 10 and let him cook? But I've asked him directly about that at media availability. He's like, nah, I'm a 6. I'm not a 10. And I get it, but it's like something. We got to try something.
For sure. No, and listen, when it's very different when you play 6, even an 8, as Westwood does sometimes. Then receiving the ball with your back to the goal in tighter areas. He's a player that likes to receive the ball on the half turn, have a little bit of forward and spray a little bit. It's a much different game than playing, close to your striker or pop it into pockets and they have spaces where it's more limited. There's more pressure. There's time. It's a much different profile. I don't know that he has that in him, but it's a very good support player for somebody who can do those things that I just don't know that Charlotte FC has at the moment.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. We're 20 minutes in. We got a few more minutes with you. I've been so grateful for your visit and your time here. I want to point out real quick, if you look at the graphic below me, Apple MLS Season Pass, it's a free weekend. All 14 matches on Apple are free this weekend, even if you don't have the year-long subscription. Year-long subscriptions also are dropping. If you're waiting, if you're not sure if you're going to sign up, now you can get it even cheaper than I paid for a few months ago. So feel free to do that. We're so grateful to everyone at Apple who's been coming through, and I'm sure we talked about Gio. We had Kalen and Egan and a ton of other guys. Neil Sika, just some of the great play-by-play guys. It's great. I just want to bring up. So you talked about Copetti. You mentioned Agyemang. When we tune in on this free weekend on Apple MLS Season Pass, what are we going to see? What should we see? I think because of money and some other things, I think Copetti stays in the starting 11 as the striker, but he has no goals, and his chance creation is way down in the last couple of matches. Meanwhile, we've got a guy on the bench, Patrick Agyemang, young guy making league minimum salary, and he's got 2 goals in fewer minutes. And it just feels like I think there's certainly a movement among some fans. They would love to see Agyemang as the starter, but then it's like, is Enzo really the guy you bring in as a sub? Agyemang's better to bring in as a sub because he kind of is more physical and he can take advantage of the tired defensive line. Enzo may not be able to do that, so it's better to start Enzo. But at some point, goals have to speak for themselves.
Right, yeah. It's really interesting what Dean Smith decides to do. What I can tell you is that there will be opportunities. They should take advantage of opportunities. One of the things that Portland Timbers does is they attack with a lot of numbers, and then on the right-hand side with Mosquera, their fullback, he's, for me, one of the best underlapping, one of the most dynamic fullbacks in the league. But he's one of the most limited fullbacks defensively. He falls asleep. He doesn't get back. I don't think that there's enough coverage for him. So I think there's a real opportunity for Vargas, if he plays on that side, to really attack that space. It's a real opportunity for Agyemang, if he gets that start, to attack that space and on the left-hand side of Charlotte FC. But I think that there will be opportunities. I think this Portland Timbers, they will have a lot of attack, but they also give up a lot of chances. And so I'm interested to see how Dean Smith is going to approach the game. Does he sit back? Does he look to counter? Or does he put them under real pressure and try to get at them, be positive, and try to, maybe provoke some mistakes from the back line of Portland Timbers.
Yeah, I love you pointing out a sort of a weak area of theirs that we can attack. I can tell you that sadly, Kerwin Vargas is sitting. Will be sitting this one out because of yellow card suspension. Just the absolute dumbest thing for a winger to get in my mind. But yeah, can't help it. He's out. So we're hoping that Yuri Tavares, who was a starter earlier in the season and then kind of fell out of favor, I was expecting him on the left wing with Abada on the right. And I expect Copetti to start again, even though I probably would. I mean, would rather see Agyemang camp at this point. But I do think let's bring this up, and then you can comment because I got quick making live graphics in the middle of the show. You brought up Mosquera, so let's just look like this is his most recent heat map in a match against Los Angeles, and I can see exactly what you talk about, where it's a lot of color in the offensive zone and not much in the defense.
Yeah, I mean that's what they do, right? That's what they do. As he gets involved in the attack. Is it Moreno on the right side? Moreno played as a 10, I think, in the last few matches because the was not around. He got 3 games. Moreno, but look, there's a lot of talent on this team, no doubt. But it doesn't matter who's in. Listen, if you know, one of the things that Portland Timbers can do to fix their issues of conceding a lot of goals, you have so much attacking power. Just give them a good defensive structure and support. I don't need overlapping fullbacks, you know, to create attack because they're so good. You know, Moreno, Felipe Mora, all these players that we just mentioned, but yet they seem to, you know, continue to send numbers forwards without balance, without proper shifting, and they give up so many opportunities. Set pieces too, they struggle a lot. That's concentration level. So, like I said, I think there's a real opportunity for Charlotte FC to come back because it's been a tough last 3 or 4 matches. You know, obviously what happened against Minnesota United, that was, you know, a big surprise, and then obviously giving up the game versus NYCFC on the road. So good to go back to winning ways against a team that, yes, they have a strong attack, but also has a lot of deficiencies defensively.
Yeah, you look. I just brought up the sort of the season results chart here, and you can see where, you know, we have no winning streaks at all yet through the 10 games. We have two match losing streaks already. So it just feels like we should be doing better than we are, but we're not doing it. So I believe in the talent of this team. I look at the table right here. We had been in the playoff zone for most of the season, and after that loss to NYC, just dropped, you know, an extra stoppage time loss. Otherwise, we would still be tied for that last playoff spot. You know, it's tough when I look at this. Nashville and New England have 1 win each on the season, and both of those were against Charlotte. That's the only, like, we're the only win for 2 of the bottom dwelling teams. And that's why, despite Portland being down near the bottom of the West, like, I'm worried about this. Like, a shootout sounds fun. It's supposed to be a rainy night, a rainy shootout. That kind of might suit Portland. They might be used to it, but like a rainy shootout sounds fun, but I don't know if that's what game that we win.
Yeah, no. Well, I actually think you do. You do. Portland Timbers, you know, they score a lot of goals, but they also concede probably more goals than they would like. I mean, they're not a team that's in a playoff position right now. So statistically, historically, at least this season with Portland Timbers, they do score goals, but statistics shows us that they will give up more goals than they concede. So, you know, that the shootout might be in Charlotte FC's favor. Here's the other thing I will say is, for Dean Smith, this is a completely different league that he's used to. And I think there's a lot of learning from him. We know that he's a top level manager, but Major League Soccer is unlike any league in the world. The amount of travel, the you know, the different surfaces, you know, the dealing with DPs, dealing with young players, dealing with, you know, with rookies, and, you know, the different level teams and different tactics. And I think it's very different. And I think he's still in an adjustment era. But there's no doubt that he's going to bring Charlotte FC more stability that I think they ever had with the situation of Miguel Angel Ramirez and Latancio, with, you know, some of his experiments that I personally enjoyed, you know, watching. But if I were a fan, I'd be you know, with a heart attack every time their fullbacks went in the middle. Bronico, you know, playing as a 10 sometimes, and he's a great guy. He's got a great haircut as well. But when Bronico playing as a 10 for a team, you know that there's problems.
Yeah, he took a turn at the 10. He took a turn at the left back in one disastrous appearance as well. Latanzio was the mad tinkerer for sure. We like to say on the show, Dino's at the wheel. That, you know, with the strong start of the season, I've made this graphic, and it's probably the most used graphic in the history of our show for sure, because Dino's at the wheel, and we love him. But it is starting to get, like, you hear, you know, to lose we have 5 losses, and I think after every single one of those 5 losses, Smith has come out in the post-game press conference and said, we deserve to win. We were the dominant team, and so it gets like it starts to wear thin a little bit. We really need a win.
I think you do. And I think this could be the weekend where you guys get it done against a team that also needs to win. So it'll be interesting to see what.
Yeah, and they're traveling cross country, so we better be able to take advantage. Miguel Gallardo, I thank you so much. You stayed even 10 minutes longer than I asked you at the beginning, so that's very sweet. I hope I didn't cut you off from anything, but you got a great studio back there. You're doing huge things as an ambassador for Orlando, as an MLS season pass analyst. And we saw the great say, let's just play it one more time on the way out here because this was some good stuff, and really appreciate your time today.
Of course, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And like I said, Charlotte FC for me is one of the coolest atmospheres, one of the best fan bases in the country. They're still a new franchise, and I hope for big things for them.
Thank you, sir. As we always love to say, I hope I don't see – by the way, if we go for any big chips here, I love the chip attempt. And hopefully, it would have been a crazy goal. It would have been a crazy goal, and you turned it into a better save. But
that was Christian Ramirez.
Oh, really? Really? That was CRAM.
That's right. That
amazing. MLS legend, Christian Ramirez. Yeah, for sure. Very cool. I didn't even know that. For Minnesota United before they were even in MLS, right? So there you go. There you have it. But appreciate you, Miguel. And as always, it's for the crown, baby.
You got it, guys. Take care. Good luck.